Hey there, y'all. It's been a while. I have a case from a different state, like I said I would, from Michigan. The state of M&M is my favorite. But I just wanted to let you guys know I'm going to be doing some makeup today. Not as a promotion, which I may end up doing that, but just to put my face on. I've already done my hair, so. But I just wanted to let you guys know that my name is Trina. This is my page about misery. There are many forms of misery, as we all know. I explore them and give my opinion. Please watch at your own discretion. There are things that are spoken of that can bring up emotion and shock. And this is the reality in this world. Opinions are just that. I've done research and want to honor the victims by revealing the last moments of their life. They matter. You matter, and I matter. Please be kind to me and others in your own life and on the chat, if you guys ever did decide to chat. Take time for yourself. Self-care is important. So viewer discretion is advised. So let's see what these victims have endured. And I just wanted to reiterate, I don't think I've done it before, but in my opinion, God didn't do this. God did not allow this. We live on planet Earth, and people make really crappy decisions, and they decide to go kill people, and that's nothing that is put on God, in my opinion. It's bad. Shouldn't happen. Nobody should have to endure that. So a lot of it is ugly, but I did just want to reiterate that, God is still on the throne, and even though this happened, that doesn't mean that he doesn't love us. It means that human beings have free will, and that free will can hurt other people. So that being said, I just wanted to give glory back to God in the situation. These are really hard situations, but I've always enjoyed learning about people's misery, and it's not because I want it to be something negative. I want it to be something to where we honor the victims. There's so many of these stories that I don't think any of us can ever talk about all of them. But that being said, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to put on my foundation, but at the same time, I'm going to talk about this. So I'm talking about, now it's spelled Ypsilanti. I'm going to pronounce it Ypsilanti, the Ypsilanti Ripper. So this was like 50 plus years ago, right? So WJBK TV on October 1948, Michigan, like I said, Eminem's home state. Hallelujah. On July 23rd, 1969, at the end, 7 women were murdered by this man. Now, as I got into this story, it completely shocked me because of just back in the days, like even now, people try to be so relaxed with the world, and you don't want to be in fear all the time, but also at the same time, it's like better decisions can be made. So in Southeast Michigan, before serial killer was a term, right? This man was before Gundy, Gacy, Dahmer, So what he did was, in some shape, form, or fashion, he shot, strangled, stabbed, and did terrible acts to these women. All of them had the R word in common and were mutilated. So in the 1960s, which is usually associated with hippie and flower power and students and fraternities, everyone, no matter if it was a fraternity member, a TV reporter, there was a manhunt for a sadist. So the first victim in the series, sorry, I'm looking at my hair, looks okay, but I'm not so sure. Anyway, so Karen Sue Meineman, she was 18 years old. So as she's a freshman at Eastern Michigan, I don't do this very well, so just bear with me. She was missing, and they were terrified that she would be a victim of the Ripper, right? So she was last. She was the last one in July 23rd, 1969, who was taken by this man and abandoned in a location that he chose for her, which is completely crazy because it's like you get taken and then you don't even get to see anybody that you love. You're left in this state where you just are alone, and it's sad. So in the beginning, in 1967, Mary Fletcher, 19, she was a Catholic, and she walked around her apartment by the campus. Now, as she's doing that, a neighbor of hers, Greg Foreigner, he's going to be mentioned quite a bit throughout the story. Since he was a neighbor, like, I'm pretty sure he saw a lot of movement of just all, how, like, your neighbors, so you kind of remain vigilant about the people around you, which is important, obviously. So he lived by her, and she was being heckled by a younger man, he said, and this man stopped aggressively by her, like cutting her off in her walking, and kept trying to get her in his car. So Fournier said, and I quote, "He put his car in front of her while she's walking down the street." And experiencing this, Fournier, he wrote a book. It's called The Terror in Ypsilanti, which is probably a mispronunciation, and I apologize. But he chronicled the murders, because I'm pretty sure, like, if you're a part of something like that, like, it sticks with you, and you try to make sense of it, so then you try to explain it to others, because it's a big deal, So that's what he did. So as the time was passing, he was watching the situation. And I don't think he thought that was going to happen, but it did. And so to be the person that was last to see somebody in that situation, that's kind of sad. And that probably did stick with him. So there was a game. It looked like a game to him, which I can understand that because serial killers, they just, it's not fun unless it is a game. And that's sad. So anyway, I don't know if you can see it in here. Anyway, I got my blush on, contour. I don't do it all fancy or whatever. I just do it enough to where it looks good for me. So Miss Mary Fleshner. I don't believe I mentioned her name earlier. I apologize. So 1 month later, by LaForge and Geddes Road, she was found stabbed in the chest, but she was not killed at the location that she was found in. So her body had been moved. So what it says is that, and this is the part that is just like not okay. So he decided to come back to the scene at least 3 times, moving her body. And I don't understand how that can happen. But then again, if you don't know something's going on, then it's not in your brain to even worry about it. Wait a moment, I'm going to have to pause and go get the rest of my makeup because I didn't grab it all. Okay, I'm back. So, that's weird to come back. But then again, that's like his trophy, so he sees it as that. So, the even weirder and more disturbing part is that every time he came back, he did something else to her. Which is just, it's disturbing, it's frightening, it's like, you already did it, so just leave her alone, you know? But Fournier, which is the neighbor, he said, in a quote, many were veterans on the force and have never seen anything quite that horrific, and knew that there was more to come. So 1 year later, to the day almost, Joan Schell, Schell, she was 20. She left Emmett Street, where her house was, walked a block over, I mean literally in her own neighborhood, to a bus stop on Washtenaw Avenue, but she missed the bus, right? So it's like the perfect circumstances, and then it creates this. It's just unreal. So she began hitchhiking, which back in the day, you know, they did a lot of that because it was just not looked at as bad like it is now, which is why it's bad now, is because of all of that. But she got in a car with 3 men. So as a woman, it's just really confusing because I don't know, I was just taught to not to do stuff like that because of that exact reason. But like I said, back in the day, it was just not that big a deal. But she got in the car with 3 men, and then she was never seen again. So it was just a few days later where her body was found, abandoned, and it was off of Earhart Road in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So yeah, I'm gonna make these even because it doesn't seem like they're that even. Okay, so anyway, so that was in 1967. In 1968, now the neighborhood is built up, right? So back then, though, she was found with 25 stab wounds. In March of 1969, Marilyn Skelton, she was 16. Like, I couldn't even imagine. Oh my gosh, sorry, keep fixing my hair, but it looks so weird today. I don't know what's going on with it. Anyway, so she was a rock and roll party girl. So I looked that up, and I think I'm going to try to place a picture around this area to show you kind of like, I guess, back in the day. Like, that's what they, some of the activities that they were a part of was like rock and roll girl or whatever, rock and roll party girl. So her brother dropped his sister off, Marilyn, at the in the Arborland Mall there in Ann Arbor, but she wanted to go to Ypsi to see her boyfriend. So, a little bit about the boyfriend. So the boyfriend was a drummer in a band, and sorry, I'm looking for my stuff. And he had bandmates, of course, and one of them was the last to possibly have spoken to her. So what had happened is, his name is Ed. He was last, whenever he last spoke to her, what had happened was he received a phone call from Marilyn, right? So you would think, back in the day, I was thinking, like, back in the day, if a friend of mine called and said, I need help, come pick me up, like, how bad I would have felt had I not been able to do it. Well, that was his position. So he said he received a call from Marilyn, and he said, quote, hold on. He said, quote, she had called me from Arborland Shopping Center out on Washtenaw and was looking for a ride to our place. I didn't have a car. I said, sorry, Marilyn, I can't come and get you. And to me, that's just heartbreaking. Like I said, I was just thinking, like, had I been in the same position, I mean, I would have felt so bad. And then, to find out that she had been murdered, it just, I mean, there's nothing he could do, obviously, but, like, it still would have gotten to me. I'm going to change my, so, Mary, Joan, and now Marilyn all killed somewhere else, but abandoned outside of Ypsilanti. Once again, probably pronouncing it horribly. I tried to look it up, but I'm not sure that, anyway, so I'm trying my best. So Joan and Mary were also stabbed. Marilyn was not stabbed, though. So Fournier, the neighbor, he said that she was the most brutally murdered, and he did really unspeakable things to her. Now, this is a part, like, as if the first part of this isn't horrible. This part is where, if you're sensitive to some of the things that are described with some of the murders and things that happen in life, please protect yourself, protect your self with self-care, and don't listen to this. So he still abandoned her, and it was just yards away from where he had abandoned Joan. So what had happened is Doug Harvey, who's a Washtenaw County Sheriff, he's the one that found her, right? So this is something that he said. Just bear with me a minute. He said he would always shove something up her. So, quote, he would always shove something up her vagina. That was one of his calling cards. So, at 16, Marilyn's body was found violated with a large tree branch. I mean, you guys, come on. like sadist. I mean, all out sadist. So, um, this is the palette I'm using today. This isn't, I'm not promoting it or anything, but these are like some of my favorite colors whatsoever. But, I'm not sure, I may use that green. It may look really weird, but I don't care because I like playing around with stuff. But he didn't stop there. Like, it didn't matter what age any of these women were. So at age 13, this baby was just in 8th grade. Dawn Bassam, she was walking along the railroad tracks, taking a shortcut to her house. She didn't make it home. And it's terrifying because, as kids, we send our kids out into the world and, they do things, we got to do things, we work, they got to take care of themselves, especially whenever they reach a certain age, So, Retro Kimmer, a blogger, wrote about the murders in detail and says that that shortcut is still being used to this day. So, if you can imagine, I don't know if parents are thinking, well, it happened so long ago, it's not going to happen again, or what, but it's still being used to this day. So, Retro Kimmer, she said, it's a lot closer than if you go down here to LaForge, and she'd have to go all the way down and back to her house, which makes sense. I mean, anybody's looking for a shortcut because you don't want to have to walk all that way. But it's like if my baby, I don't know, I just try to put myself in that position. And I mean, I know whenever I was working and wasn't on disability for my autoimmune stuff affecting me so bad. Like, I remember when my son would have to walk from his school home, and it was like 4 blocks away, and it scared the living crap out of me because you just never know. I mean, like, you want to be trusting and not live in fear because fear isn't all that great either. I decided to use purple. Now, I'm not going to promote makeup, which I can. So if you did want to start purchasing some makeup through somebody who you're watching or whatever, this is the Unique's, let's see if I can get it to show, palette. This purple one right here is my absolute favorite. It's, I don't even, ambiguous. So ambiguous is so pretty. I don't know if you can see it. Let me switch the lighting again. Nope. Maybe. Oh, there we go. It's a little better. But I would love to sell it. I mean, I buy it as like part of the kit or whatever. But I'd like to see if other people would like for me to sell it. And then you guys can go through somebody that, you know on here. Anyway, off on a tangent. So, she would have to go all the way down, back to the quote, all the way down and back to her house. This is why, shortcut to her house, she'd cut over the railroad tracks, and then there's her house. I mean, how simple, It's just we don't live in a world where the serial killers and the bad people aren't as prevalent. I mean, I guess maybe I'm saying that in a way that it's just like not true. But to me, it just seems like serial killers and all of that, it just wasn't so in your face, like so many of them, or so brazen, like during the day, and so, you know what I mean? Like, but I mean, I guess so because they're walking around by themselves. So I mean, that is, one of the things that they do. But Miss Dawn, she used that shortcut, and a few hundred yards from her home, she disappeared in April, of 1969. So Cheryl was a good friend of hers, and she said, quote, she was tough, she was generous, and she was sweet. So it just, I don't know, it's just so sad. But her friend was reminiscing about it, and her body was abandoned off Reland and Gale, and the sheriff, Sheriff Harvey, who I mentioned earlier, just the day after being missed. It was a horrific sight, he said, after looking under a sheet. So he said, quote, here was a little girl. It tore us apart. Seriously, it had a effect on us, on everyone who had seen this, end quote. So the search for the killer continued. So there wasn't enough to get anybody right then and there, so this crazy person was out killing more people. So kids being taken really does affect people. Now college kids, you know, they're still kids, but like that younger eighth grade girl, just horrible, just beyond. But her orange sweater was found, and it was found by the Washington deputies. Saw signs of struggle, and she fought. I'm pretty sure she didn't want to die. None of us do. We want to live, but we get at the hands of somebody who's a complete lunatic. Being a young girl, I mean, it's really hard to, I don't know. Anyway, so Cheryl, her friend, gave a horrifying description. So once again, viewer discretion is advised. So, quote, he took her to that abandoned house up on the Forge Road. She was in the basement of the house. They found glass in her elbows and knees. She had gotten out of there and got across the yard and back toward the barn, and that's where she was attacked and murdered, end quote. So the abandoned buildings that were there, it was clear that the killer knew that they were there and that nobody would bother him or be available to find him out. So clearly he knew the area. Bear with me just a moment. Same thing. Pencil in the shade. Moodstruck is one of my favorites. And if you want me to sell any of this, let me know. I'm glad to give you a code and get you, some percentage off. So, and this is another part of, oh my gosh, like you guys. So after the scene was investigated, the killer returned to the scene. I mean, he loves going back, and it's just really confusing as to why nobody was there. I mean, I guess after it's investigated, like, there's really no need, but the craziest part about it is that even weeks later, an earring was found of hers. Like, sorry, I'm messing with my camera because it's in my way. So I'm confused. Like, did they just not see it? Or, I'm not sure. Honestly, it's confusing. I don't like it. It makes me feel like the job was not done correctly, which back in the day, I mean, they didn't have all the tools and things that we have now. But so Alice Calum, 22. She was a graduate from University of Michigan, and she was on her way to her birthday party. Someone saw her on the back of a motorcycle leaving the depot house, which was a club. This is like a form of gloss that I put on, but it's a lip plumper, and it's like my favorite of all time. Anyway, I'm gonna have to get some more, but I got it through Ipsy, so I'm not sure. And that was not a plug, that was just me saying where I got it. So it was a perfect day, therefore it was a perfect ride. There was no need for concern for her. But it was her last day because she decided to accept a ride from somebody who was just a complete lunatic. So Harvey, that sheriff, he stated, quote, "Her neck was slit from ear to ear. I remember that they found her out on Territory Road in another abandoned barn." So, Roxy Phillips was 17. She was not killed in Michigan, but she did have ties to this serial killer. So he went to California with his car with Michigan plates. So had he not done that, there would have been no way to connect the cases together. So he's there, right? Roxy went to mail a letter. Let me get this situated. So I have some autoimmune things that go on in music. Music too, but makeup is just my happy place. So I may be putting on makeup while I do these because it just makes me happy. And so just bear with me as I look at notes and I look at makeup and anyway. So in most homes, I thought even back then, but I don't know. You don't have to walk very far to put a letter in the mail, but I'm assuming if it's from apartments, you have to go down to a little area where all of the mailboxes are and put it in a little slot there for outgoing mail. But anyways, she had to walk to go mail this letter, and so a shiny Cutlass, which Cutlass are awesome cars. I don't know why they have to be mentioned in a lot of these serial killer shows. That's something that literally I thought it was stuck on my head. It is not. Anyway, I just remember picturing a Cutlass. They're just such cool cars. But he pulled up next to her once again, cutting her off. And the car was besides the fact that it was a Cutlass and they look really cool. The car had Michigan plates, so it stood out being in California. So whenever it was leaving the site, he screeched his tires to leave, and so in the process of doing that, he almost hit another car. So it was a very intense situation, anyways. And then doing that, it just it would bring up concern in your mind of what just happened, what's going on. It just kind of creates that chaos. I got something in my face, probably a piece of my hair. Fournier said a couple things that, quote, "There were two people that saw her in that car," end quote, and, quote, "The woman in that car had seen enough of the dress that Roxy had on, and she said it was kind of red. It was kind of a red dress and had a floral print on it, which is what Roxy was wearing." So being these people that saw these women, like, I mean, not a neighbor, not somebody close, but still just a person altogether. Roxy was found in Pecadero Canyon outside of Salinas, California. She was, now, viewer discretion. Please, every time that you start to hear this, sometimes I may forget, but I am talking about crime, so it will come up. Just, if you don't want to hear it, just quickly pause, skip over it. But viewer discretion is advised. I'm about to start mentioning some things that will create, could create something inside of you. So she was beaten, strangled with the belt of that floral dress. That's what was used to strangle her, and then she was abandoned in the canyon. So 10 days later, a freshman at Eastern Michigan University, she didn't return to her dorm that night. So to slowly see so many people disappear in your town, like, I would not leave my house. Karen Beineman, which was the last victim, she went to a wig shop, and that was on Washington in downtown Ypsi. And she made a comment to the store owner that the store owner was like, wait, what? And she said that this is what Roxy said to her. Quote, she said, I've just done two things that I haven't done in my life. I'm buying a wig, and I have accepted a ride on a motorcycle with a stranger. I mean, oh, man. That would send shocks through my body, too. Like, girl, don't do it. Girl, don't do it. I mean, he could be the nicest person on earth, but, like, for some reason, sometimes that's what can trigger a man to do that, is being alone and knowing that he's a man and he can, if he has that within him, that's when it would come out. Joan Goesche, Goesche, Goeshe. That was the store owner. The assistant stepped out to watch the 18-year-old, which, I mean, she's 18, she's not a kid, like, she's going to do what she's going to do. But that assistant saw a clean-cut man. He had a Triumph motorcycle that was nice, like, shiny and clean looking, and, like, you wouldn't suspect anything from that, because he was clean cut too, so he just looked like he was just another dude. But once he noticed that the assistant was looking at him, he turned his head, like he didn't want her to see him, or he didn't want to see that he would, like, make him feel guilty, I guess, which I'm not sure if that could even happen, but anyway. Excuse me. The chocolate store next door saw that same bike, and the young woman that walked out of the wig shop and got on the back of the bike and was behind that man. And then she was never seen again. So, Fox 2 Detroit is where I've gotten some information as well. They were stating that there were 5 different police agencies searching for Karen, and 100 square miles of roads traveled to try to search for her. So the town collectively went into shock. Quote, that's from Fournier. He also said, quote, nobody wanted to say anything to anybody because it was very obvious by that time that there was a serial killer working this area. So Ebola was put out by the Washington County for the bike and the biker. So, there was a rookie, a rookie campus officer at Eastern Michigan University, Larry Mathewson. So he was also a senior in college, so this was probably his job. But anyways, he recalled some part of his experience with this. So, quote, he said, "I was on patrol the afternoon of the 23rd of July and turned the corner down by Sill Hall on the campus. And there was John Collins." Bear with me a moment. I'm going to put this on. So, apparently, this Mr. Matheson, who was the campus security cop there for Eastern State, Michigan. Oh, man. Let's see. John Collins, and he didn't even know his name at that time. So, Larry, Mr. Matheson, he was still a senior, like I said, and he didn't know his name, but he recognized his face. So bear with me a little bit. Let's see. It's going to poke me in my eye. So, let's see. He recognized the face. Quote, he said, "He knew me and I knew him. Just basically fraternity rivals in that," end quote. So they played intramural football there for the college. And one of the things that Mr. Matheson remembered about John was that he was a good athlete, right? So, like, if you go to school with somebody, like, I mean, if they're smart, you're going to remember that too, but also, like, the sports. If they're really good at sports, they're going to be mentioned a lot throughout school, for football games and all of that. And so, John was a great athlete, and it made him more recognizable, and John was flirting with girls all day on the day that the last girl went missing on the motorcycle. So, Mr. Matheson, he said, quote, "There were 7 women that he tried to get on that motorcycle before Biden men got on it." So, Larry was asking Matheson, the campus police, he was asking one of the girls he saw flirting with John if he was the same man that that drove off with Karen in downtown Ypsilanti. It's all good. Larry Matheson, the security police, she asked me if he was in any trouble, and I said, "Not that I'm aware of, but if you had a picture, probably could clear him. I probably could clear him," end quote. So the girl gave him the picture. Hold on, I can't find my, oh, there they are. Now I can see. So whenever that mugshot was put into a lineup, for the chocolate shop employee, Larry also said, Mr. Matheson said, quote, "They said she was in the basement having lunch, so I went down." That was the employee that he was looking for. And they're down there and talked to her. I said I would like you to look at the pictures for me. And she said, sure. And she looked at them, and I don't know, the third or fourth picture was Collins. And when she saw it, she dropped her sandwich in her lap, and she said, oh shit, that's it. So, Collins, the serial killer, his fate from the home owned by a Michigan State Trooper, Corporal David Leik, L-E-I-K, or Leak. He went on vacation, and whenever he came back, things were not the way they left them. So, leaving for a vacation, like his wife, kids, his wife gave them a haircut before they left, and for some reason left the hair on the floor in a pile, in a neat pile, but on the floor. And so when Leek walked into the basement, when they came back, he found a mess of hair that was left there, and blood. So Karen disappeared and was killed when Leek and his family went on vacation. So guess who Mr. Collins is? Collins is Leik's nephew. So nephew was there at the home. So put it all together. They left. Their nephew was there. Their nephew was the serial killer. He went around killing everybody and bringing them back to their place, doing whatever, killing them, and then taking them and abandoning them somewhere. So Larry said, quote, the Leik children, the 3 boys, were all white blonde-haired little guys, and that hair, color-wise, the first original look at it seemed to be a fit. So one of the victims, there was hair found on her, and it matched the hair that was from the house, so that's how they connected him to the crime. Also was, that's where he lived. So how was she going to get that hair on you? So the tiny hairs that Karen's underwear had those hairs in, therefore Collins was arrested on July 31st, 1969. So, who is John Collins? So John Collins grew up in Centerline, Detroit. In 1969, he was studying to be a teacher. He was polite, handsome, but he's a serial killer. So, during his trial, before he claimed, he never killed anyone, he agreed to a polygraph. But then as he was about to do it, he spoke with his attorney, and then out of the blue, he just decided not to. So they kind of assumed, like, he probably confessed to them, and then they were like, no, do not do that. So in 1970, he was tried for Karen Beinman. That was the last person, I believe. During the trial, he was relaxed. He was smiling at his family and his wife, and just completely oblivious to what he's done, or just a complete lunatic, like in the act and in the behavior, or like the emotions and stuff. So the evidence was overwhelming, of course. And in August of 1970, he was found guilty by a jury of his peers. He was ordered to life without parole in prison. So, at the date of this article that I found, a couple of them, it's been 50 years since this happened. But the craziest thing about it is that a woman claims that he is still luring women into his clutches from prison, even still to this day. There are many more stories of women who had close calls then, and even now, like I said, with him doing craziness from prison. So that's all I have for this case. Now, make sure that you go and you look this case up and do some more investigating. I'm pretty sure there's things I've missed. I did some investigating of my own and just brought to you the gist about this story. So, yeah. Oh, my makeup looks good. I like this look on my makeup. It's not too, I usually put powder on, but I forgot to bring that in. I didn't want to pause again. So, but yeah. If you want to know what I keep on looking at, it's my makeup. Yeah. So, I've definitely got some cleaning up to do now, but yeah, so I'm glad to be back. I'm hoping I can get this posted here pretty quick, pictures combined, and that way you guys can kind of see the story, and I hope that I'll be able to do some more here. Yeah, it's kind of been a crazy ride here lately. It's been a long time, but yeah, so I'm happy to be back, and I may not be posting every day. It may just be a week in between until I can see if this is even something that anybody would be interested in. I know you guys would watch my old ones, but yeah. So just remember to take care of yourself. Keep God first in your life. Be aware of your surroundings. Be nice to other people. Even if they're not nice to you, you don't have to be mean, because that's not who you are. So take the time, calm yourself down, and just still remain you, because you don't want to be somebody that you're not. And I don't believe that everybody's ugly. There's just really hurt people in this world, and some just haven't taken the time to get over it. So take some time to work on yourself. I'm thinking about doing a reaction video about, I'm not sure if I'll do it about music. I love music, but I've listened to everything, so it's not like it would be a first time thing. Reaction, I listen to all genres, besides classical. I don't listen to classical, but there's not really much you can say about that. Anyway, so I was thinking about doing some kind of reaction. I may have my son on that one. But yeah, I'm hoping to fill my day with things that I like. And one of them is definitely this. I like crime shows, crime information, because the human psyche is something that has always interested me. I don't understand why. I'm just very curious to look into it and see if I can't get a deeper understanding, but also to, like I said, bring glory back to God. God did not cause this. God did not want this to happen. It's something that a human being decided to do because of the things that are going on in their life. They're not living their life in a way that would bring glory and honor back to God, so therefore it goes the opposite way, in a very extreme way. So anyway, give glory back to God in this. It's a hard thing to look at, but it's also, in my mind, giving honor back to the victims. And there's just so many that happen in the United States and abroad and everywhere, that it's kind of like that feeling to me, like if you're thankful for what you have, God can honor that and give you more. So if you are, honoring of other people and trying to bring people to understand their story, or to have some kind of insight into it, and just to be like, oh my gosh, that really sucks, and to think about it for a moment, then I believe that, it doesn't prevent things from happening to you, or any of that, but it does give you a chance to look into somebody else's life and not necessarily feel sad for them or bad for them, but to understand that they didn't do anything wrong, that either in naivety or in that serial killer's just madness. That person was extinguished from this earth, and it's sad, and it's something that I like to look into and to bring it back around, and just to say, God loves us all, and it's a good idea to, as you grow up, try to learn about something greater, bigger than yourself. I choose God. I believe He exists. I believe that, it's a good way to give glory back to God. Thanks, you guys. See you guys again. Bye.